Good afternoon. My name is Tia Fields. I'm honored to be hosting today's conversation for MLK Fest 2026 as we go over Martin Luther King's beloved community.
My name is Lathan Snedecor. I am a junior at Scotlandville Magnet High School, and I participate in many extracurricular activities.
I'm Leslie Grover. I'm a writer, scholar, and activist.
My name is Chawna Banks. I'm a career employee with East Baton Rouge Parish School System, former councilwoman, new business owner, and developer for 2 nonprofits.
Thank you guys for joining me today. So King defined the beloved community as a place where justice prevails, where humanity is valued over systems, and critically, where conflict isn't eliminated, but resolved peacefully through the spirit of love. So this question is gonna be asked to all three. In our current climate, particularly here in Baton Rouge, in 2026, does the beloved community feel like an attainable goal or a distant dream? And more practically, if we're committed to building it, what is the first brick we must lay to truly have the dream of a beloved community? I'll start with you first, Ms. Banks.
Right. So when you think of a beloved community, what I see more than anything is that we're talking about shared opportunities. It's not about optics, it's not about wordplay, but shared opportunity, which means is there equitable funding? Are you willing to have goals and you're able to go back and see across neighborhoods whether or not those goals are being met, and being willing to reset, get feedback. So whenever you think beloved, it's something that is not what you feel, it's what you do. And so for me, it's attainable, but it does take very bold moves to put it out there and of course, let the data tell us what's what.
I don't think that we ever had beloved community on a large scale. I think we've only had it on a small scale. We may have it within certain faith communities. We may have it in families. We may have it in, schools or smaller spaces within where we are, but it is not in the best interest of capitalism or institutions for us to have beloved community. So I don't think we ever have. As on that scale, as long as we're buying into institutions over people, we're never going to attain it. And so I think one of the first bricks we need to lay is to we need a rebuilding of the word love, because we think of love as something nice and cheery and feeling good, but love also comes with justice. Love also comes with accountability. Love is also a form of power. Love is also a form of relationship. And so until we're able to have those honest connections with one another, I think that we'll continue to struggle to have that beloved community on a larger scale.
I share that same feeling both with you and Ms. Banks in terms of the beloved community, including the shared responsibility, comes shared risk, and then really redefining what love really is. And one thing that came to my mind was the word discipline. To build a thriving community, one and groups of others have to have the discipline and consistency to keep it through. I want to move to hear from our youth panelists about what are your thoughts about the beloved community, and what's one of the first things for the future you feel like we need to continue to grow in that way?
Well, when I hear beloved community, first thing that comes to mind is friendships, and from a student standpoint, friendships and dealing with different things in the community to help the community be better in a beloved community. And what I think is better for our future is that we need to come together as one and help each other to do better things in our community, because as we look in our communities nowadays, we don't really have the help that we need or that we are looking for from different political standpoints. So that's what we need to better our future.
You shared earlier today that you take a part of a lot of extracurricular activities in school. Do you see that as one community, or is each group that you're a part of different? And if so, what are the differences that you notice?
I feel like each of them are different, and the differences that I notice are um, that everyone comes from different standpoints in life. Like you can say that one person comes from a two-parent home, or another person comes from a one-parent home with a mother or a father, and we all come together as one. And no matter what we have at home, we still are together and can bond together.
It's really good. So when I'm thinking about narratives, and you said it beautifully that love is also justice. In your book, The Benefits of Eating White Folks, I kind of want to talk a little bit about where does narrative play in the beloved community, and just hit a little bit of key points in that book and what you were hoping to accomplish and help the community understand.
Well, the thing about narratives is that all of us, we carry narratives and we work with narratives every day, even when we don't understand. So I'll give you an example. Like, I wasn't familiar coming to this space. I've never been to this space before. So I had this narrative of where it was. The narrative of like, when it says media center, or oh, here's a narrative, this is what we'll do. So narratives help us survive. Narratives help us think about where we fit in or don't fit in, and how we navigate in a society. When we have a controlling narrative, when we don't make space for other narratives, that's where violence seeps in. That's where conflict seeps in. That's what really keeps us unable to do that. So when I wrote The Benefits of Eating White Folks, um, I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people were like, what? At first they didn't understand it. I'm like, well, read the book and you'll understand it. But what the book is about, it's fiction, of course, historical fiction, and it centers an enslaved woman, and she's searching for her daughter that's come up missing. And enslavement is a part of American history that we don't like to discuss in any detail. We either see it as, oh, it was this brutal, horrible, violent system, which it is. And then some people see it as, well, it's a part of our history, and it should be something that we should try to get past, or something that we should try to build from today. But the truth is, there's so much about enslavement that we don't understand, and so much about enslavement that still influences how we see one another and how we relate to one another today. It's a really important thing that we should talk about. It's a story that we should try to understand. It's a narrative that we should try to understand from many different points of view. So when I wrote that story, the narrative was not only humanizing the experience of an enslaved mother, but also bringing the experience of when a child is missing. That's usually something today that we see as a community issue. There's Amber Alerts. I'm a little old, so when I was growing up, a lot of y'all don't know about this, but they used to put face on the back of a milk carton, or the big red square in Walmart. I don't know. But it was something to where it was public. And the narrative around it was, this is a child that's missing. This is an important part of our community, so we need all hands on deck. And a lot of times it had, have you seen me? Now it's a lot different. A lot of times what we find as kids who are missing, the narrative becomes they ran away, right, so that the community doesn't have to invest certain resources. Because with the narrative of running away comes, well, they wanted to run away, or they don't want to be found, or they're a problem. And so I'll put that there. So part of that was in that. The second issue in writing the book was I wanted us to think about social constructs, particularly the word white. When we hear that someone is white, we think of skin color, which is true. There are a lot of people with white skin color, but they aren't all European. Some of them are black, some of them are Latin. Right. But whiteness, and in the book, it's like not white as in white, but white is in the social construct of whiteness, which is again something that's part of the system, which accrues benefits to people who behave and buy into the system rules, and punishes those who do not. So when we talk about the benefits of eating white folks, we're talking about eating the system.
Right.
We're talking about tearing down a system. We're talking about taking those pieces of a system that can harm us and building it and abolishing it into something that nourishes us all. So that was really what was behind the benefits of eating white folks. And also to get folks feeling weird enough about the title so they would pick up the book.
right.
Yeah.
The narrative, when you first hear the word, you're already automatically thinking that this is someone who is anti-white, but it wasn't even about that. It was much larger than that. I read it, and I'm going to read it from my phone. I read an article by Barbara J. Love, and it was in an excerpt called Developing a Libertary Consciousness. And so she highlights all members of society play a role in keeping a disequal system in place, either to its benefit or disadvantage. And ultimately, our society has prepared individuals to play either a dominant or subordinate role in society. And so I think a lot about when you say the word black and white, there was this social construct that white was the dominant race and black was the subordinate. Males, in terms of gender, are the dominant gender, and then the females were the subordinate race. Can you just talk a little bit more about what does it take to have uncomfortable conversations before we can reach reconciliation when it comes to the roles in which society has given us that we feel like in our mind we have to play?
Yes. I think on a larger scale, when something makes us uncomfortable, we're immediately taught that we want to rush through it, we want to get rid of it, we need to be healed from it. And that is a part of whiteness as a social construct, that you should always be comfortable, and if it makes you uncomfortable, then it's a bad thing. But as many of us in this room know, our lived experiences are of discomfort. And that doesn't necessarily have to do with your skin color, but it could be maybe you have a physical condition, maybe you have a mental condition, maybe you're in an existential crisis. You know, there are all types of things that make us uncomfortable. And I'll use the example that I probably should avoid, but I don't care about discomfort. In the current political environment, what we have is a group of black people, particularly black women, who at one point were moving to say, we tried to tell you all what would happen if MAGA got control of narratives, if they got control of resources. We tried to tell you. And now progressive white people, or white people, and I'm talking, again, the social constructs, are now saying, oh, we have to do something. We need to come together, and we need to fight this, and we need you all to help us because you all have always helped us. But a lot of the sentiment is, but we told you. Why, when we told you this, didn't you hear us? Why, when we told you this way before there was even a MAGA, that people who carry a certain ideology, that people who behave a certain way are dangerous? Well, it's because you were benefiting from the whiteness at the time. And another reason is, going back to your point about the roles that we were assigned, a lot of people have only understood black people to be in a subservient role, or women in a subservient role. So when you have someone who lives at the intersectionality of blackness and womanhood, most people expect someone to be subservient.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't have to be subservient in the way that we think of it, but when Harris went away after the presidential election, many progressive white people were, well, where is she? She should be saying something. She should be doing something. Well, what should she have done? What should she have done? Why does she need to come and clean up the mess that you in your whiteness decided wasn't a problem until it started to affect you personally? Being able to say those things to one another, being able to hold the words of people that we may or may not disagree with, or that we maybe have not heard before, is the first step. We have to think about hearing one another and holding one another, because we're taught that when someone says something that you feel attacked, you want to defend yourself. Defenses have to be down. And if we're going to be in a beloved community, love is going to have to take on justice. If you love me, you want to hear what I have to say.
Yes.
If you love me, then the words that are coming out of my mouth may make you uncomfortable, but you understand that the intention is to hold my voice in a space where my voice has not been valued as much as yours has.
That's real. I think in my personal capacity, I've often experienced moments where I always had to try and explain, my ethnicity, my upbringing, and I often share that my mother is Puerto Rican and Filipino. My dad is African American. I grew up in California with a white grandfather, right? And when I say white, I'm talking about the skin, but that's not his heritage. And to that point, that when I moved to the Deep South, I realized that I had not yet received the Black history like it's given in the South. It's completely different. We had segments of Black history taught in elementary and middle and high school, but more of it, so it was about the Hispanic Revolution and the Chinese gold rush, like the different aspects of who lived in the state of California. And so what brings me to, like, you bring a great point about now we're underneath a new regime where there is so much political violence happening throughout the state and throughout the country, where we now have to band together. A couple weeks ago, Renee Good was murdered in Minneapolis, and the amount of outrage is now other folks are starting to fear and feel what we have always felt as a people. Ms. Shauna, you served 12 years as a city council member in District 2. Can you talk a little bit about how you serve a beloved community, not just for the Black folks, the poor Black folks, because there's systems even within our own race, the how you guys say? Bourgeoisie. Can you talk a little bit about your experience on how you stayed fair to make sure that your decisions and policies was to the benefit and good of all people, not just folks that look like you, walk like you, or grew up in the same neighborhood as you?
So it's very interesting because I grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And during that time, if there was a such thing as middle class, I grew up in middle class. Both my parents were educators. My mom was the oldest of 12, my father, the oldest of 3. And so my parents were the first one to build the brick house. And based on that, my grandparents would say, if you get one through, the others will follow. So being that both my parents were the oldest of their siblings, both college graduates, that came to be true, even with a grandfather with a 4th grade education and 8th grade. So I grew up in Scotlandville. Not only did my parents, who were born in the 1930s, not face racism, we didn't face racism. And so people find that hard to believe, but Scotlandville basically was, if you would think of the Wall Street, it was Black Wall Street in Baton Rouge. Most of the persons that lived in the Scotlandville community were teachers, plant workers, and domestics, but they had really, really good jobs in those areas. So for me, I did not know that there was much different. Having my father went to Southern Laboratory School. My mother was in the first class of Scotlandville High School. I went to Southern Lab, as well as my siblings. So to be honest, the council was my first introduction to systemic racism. And it was really weird because, in Scotlandville, not only did I go to school, work, and church with all Blacks, even though I worked with white, I would have the jobs that I would have. I may have had a white supervisor, but, for the most part, it was an even playing field, and that's through college. So when I get to the council and I realize the systemic diversity, that was a rude awakening to me. And what was also so hard is that many of my Black colleagues had become assimilated to the point where this is just the way it is. And so literally I had to be empowered by activists like Leslie, who worked with. I had to get groups of people like the Gary Chambers of the world, Cleve Dunn, Bradley Brown, Eugene Collins. Then we had the bad boys, and then we had the academicians from Southern University who knew research, who knew policies. And we formed a North Baton Rouge Blue Ribbon Commission. That was my foundation. And so when we talk about, when you talked about a beloved community, in essence, equity is love with structure. And when you have love with structure, so that's a hard thing. And so when you have love with structure, then you're going to have fair funding. You're going to have fair access. You're going to have fair opportunities where every child, every family, every entrepreneur has an opportunity to succeed. And the idea that I had to force that was really rough, and know that I had to work outside of the box and say whatever I had to say to get the attention, call whoever I had to call out. And yes, I was able to work both sides because, again, I grew up in a middle class. So I knew what the bourgeois, whatever you said, are, being from Southern Lab, but by the same token, I had parents who told me what they had to go through to get that education. They were able to tell me, my mother, that she had to row a hoe before she went to school. I knew about my grandfather working at Hernandez Ice, so though we had that, and my grandparents were also in Scotlandville, and knowing my grandmother is now, I never knew where New Rose. My grandmother had, my paternal grandmother had 5 families she was domestic, and they would come get her. And from St. Francisville, I could not believe when I went to St. Francisville, New Roads, so they would come get her. My maternal grandmother didn't work. She was always barefoot and pregnant with these 12 babies. But the whole point of the matter is, as we grow, we have to give that history. We cannot let our children think that what they're living is a privilege. It's something that had work, and we have to tell our children that this didn't just fall out the sky. There were some people in your family and outside of your family that took some hard blows to make a difference so that you can have a better life, and do not get it twisted.
Thank you for that. You referenced a lot about Scotlandville. And Lathan, with you being a student that goes to Scotlandville, which is a historic Black high school, can you talk about your feelings on anything experiencing racism? Does it exist? Is it something that you've personally experienced? What's your feelings on it?
My experience is not really it's not really happening at Scotlandville per se, but there are a few white students more than Black students, and I feel like we get along well. I haven't seen any problems with racism at the school, but racism around the community or in the world per se can be degraded with not happening.
Yeah. I think I'm a mother with a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we often have conversations about what's going on in their world. And one child goes to one school that is predominantly all Black, and one is at a mixed race school. And that's my 10-year-old. She goes to Zachary Elementary, and that school is integrated with all different races, and so she has a proclivity and love for everyone, as well does my child that goes to Madison. I'm curious to know, like, your involvement in the Walls. How has it been beneficial for you to work in spaces like this and not see color?
Working with them, it has opened me up to know new possibilities with trying different things. At first, I was shy, not want to do anything, but now joining them, it has opened me up to step out of my comfort zone and not see color and try different things.
Thank you for that. And as we get ready to kind of wrap up a little bit, I want to center us on racial healing and what that means. Like if there was something, Dr. Grover, that you wanted every student in East Baton Rouge Parish and every activist, storyteller, researcher, and whomever to know about the possibilities of racial healing, what would you tell them?
That all of us have a role when it comes to healing. And that racial healing is spiritual work, it's societal work, it's mental work, it's work. It's not something where we have to fight for, it's something that we must work for. And so, for instance, when we say, I don't see color, you should, because if you don't see color, you don't see me.
Okay.
I think the sentiment behind that is, I'm not allowing who you are or your experiences to influence how I treat you and how I think of you. But we need to see color.
Okay.
Because if we see color, then we understand that the history of why we have these ways that we deal with one another they come from somewhere. This current political environment, we've seen this before. We have the blueprint already. It happened after Reconstruction. And we're seeing it play. Again, history may not repeat itself, but a lot of people say it rhymes. And it's rhyming right now like a lyric from Outkast. Oh wait, let me do one for the young people. Who do y'all listen to? Who y'all listen to, baby?
They listen to
They.
'cause I don't.
Meg Thee Stallion. Well, that's my girl. I listen to it too. But like, from fill in the blank of the most popular, it's rhyming, and we should pay attention. And the last thing I'll say is that knowing stories, holding one another's stories, everybody's story is important to hear. Everybody's story, and there's a space for it.
Thank you for that. Ms. Banks?
Okay. So when I think about the fact that so often it's difficult to have these conversations because people consider them blame. But they're not blame, it's about responsibility. And with a shared responsibility, we also know that each one of us inherited these systems that have caused unfair outcomes that were not good for everyone. But from that point that you could come to realize it, that's where the responsibility, but it takes willingness. Are you willing to redesign the areas where these systemic issues have caused a certain demographic to fall short? Because if any one community is left out, the whole community suffers. And I think as it relates to the political season that we're in, that's what we've always known. You cannot hurt Black people without white people being hurt. You can't hurt Hispanics without Black people being hurt. Many of the scenes that we've seen in regards to ICE coming in communities of fathers screaming, crying, being pulled away. It reminds me of my trip to Ghana when we saw movies of the same things, of the Africans being pulled away onto the slave ship. They're the same things. And so when we begin to see, first of all, that we inherited these ideas that are demonic, in my estimate, and that we decide we want to be better, beloved, true beloved communities, and we want to share and take responsibility and be accountable, that's where the bridge will have to begin.
Thank you. And you, Lathan, anything that you would like to leave with the community in terms of being responsible and building beloved community?
I can say that we just need to do better as a community or as a whole with standing up and speaking out for each other and just building friendships across, it shouldn't matter what race you are, what skin color you are. we're all as one. We should all stand up, even though we have different traits and different ethnicities. We should all treat each other as one and come up and stand together.
Thank you for that. So as we get prepared to close, I just would like to thank our panelists for joining and giving us this conversation on the record as we move forward to try to build a more equitable and just East Baton Rouge Parish, and really just hope that the audience that's listening and those who are here in this room take the call of being a beloved community member. I really love the fact that Dr. Grover highlighted that love is not just a word. It requires discipline, it requires consistency, it requires justice. So the charge for racial healing that I will give for you guys today, that when you guys see something unjust happening to your neighbor, your coworker, your colleague, band together and do something about it. My name is Tia Fields. This has been an amazing opportunity, and cut. Can I say cut? Cut. Thank you.